How to record video tutorials. How to record videos with CamStudio Video Recorder. This video shows how to record your desktop using CamStudio Video Recorder. This tutorial was prepared using version 2.7. CamStudio can't record itself, so I'm recording this tutorial with Debut Video Capture Software by NCH Software. Clickable links for all websites mentioned in this tutorial are given below the video window. My Norton 360 security program reported that the CamStudio website has been hacked and is unsafe. So you should download version 2.7 of CamStudio from the SourceForge website at the URL shown here. Either click the link below this window to download it, or type the URL above into your browser's address box. After installing CamStudio, I recommend you download and install Jawor's Xvid codec from this website. There is a link for this below the video window. The Xvid codec enables you to record much longer videos with much higher quality than when using CamStudio's default Microsoft Video 1 codec. There is a tutorial from Terry Lee Britton on the CamStudio support forum showing how to configure Xvid, and here's the URL for that video. Please follow Terry's advice in his tutorial for configuring the Xvid codec and CamStudio's video and audio settings, and then follow my recommendations for other CamStudio settings. Jawor's codec does have a design restriction that both the length and width of the video window must be even numbers of pixels. You can't use any of CamStudio's region selection options that don't let you guarantee even dimensions. For that reason, you might want to choose a different codec. CamStudio does have some quirks, and I'll mention some of them during this tutorial. CamStudio sometimes gets hung up. To close it, right-click it on the system tray, then click Stop, then Exit. If you close it with the Task Manager, that frequently destroys CamStudio's settings. Here are my options recommendations. I would suggest you write down all the settings, because when something goes wrong and they get clobbered, you'll have to restore some or all of them manually. Set Options, Program Options, then click the option you want to set. You may find it useful to minimize the program when it starts recording, unless you want to record the program itself, the CamStudio program. Probably don't want to hide the flashing rectangle that shows where you're recording. You do want to save settings on Exit. Probably want to capture translucent layered windows in case you're using one of the arrow themes. For Play AVI File when recording stops, set Do Not Play AVI File, because it's much better if you play the file later by double-clicking it and let the system figure out which player to use. Directory for recording, use user-specified directory, and then you select whatever you want, maybe the desktop on the next screen, but be aware that CamStudio doesn't remember that, and you'll have to set that whenever you save a file after you've recorded. Other than that, check the keyboard shortcuts, and I normally use the default settings for keyboard shortcuts. And they are F8 for recording and pausing, starting and stopping the recording, F9 for stopping the recording and saving the result, F10 for stopping the recording but getting rid of the file it's writing. And then I don't know what the rest of these do, but these settings work. Should they get clobbered, you can put them back in and they will work. So this is a none. Then this is a Control F11. These are the defaults and they do work. Control, none, and none. So whenever it gets clobbered, go in and change them back to where they're supposed to be, then click OK to make the change. I didn't make any changes, so I'll click Cancel. Now for the region settings, this gets a little trickier. If you select region, first of all, if you are using the Xvid codec, remember it has to have even numbers for the height and width of the window you're recording in. And that precludes some of these options, and I'll go into that. If you're using one of the other codecs, you can use the options where you don't care if the height and width of the window are even. But like I said earlier, the Xvid codec gives a smaller file, maybe a third, and it gives a better quality video than the others. So I would suggest you do the Xvid codec, even though it's a bit of trouble to download and configure it. But like I mentioned elsewhere, there is a tutorial on how to configure it, so it's not really that big a deal. I'm going to use the Microsoft Video 1 codec so I can point out how all the options work, but I will point out what doesn't work with the Xvid codec. So I'll go into Options, Video Options. It is set to Microsoft Video 1, not the Xvid codec, so I will be able to go ahead and do the demo and use things you can't use with Xvid, and we'll talk about what those are. If you specify region, then when you start recording by pressing F8, you get a plus sign on the cursor, and that lets you draw a rectangle. And I'll just draw a rectangle that has part of CamStudio in it, and we'll play that. We'll put that video in the tutorial so you can see what I wound up producing. Okay, it's going to be the top part of the CamStudio window, and it is recording as shown by the flashing rectangles. And here's the recording just produced by CamStudio. Next one I'll demonstrate is the fixed region, and this is the one I use most often when I use CamStudio. It's more flexible. What you do on this screen is you uncheck this square, then you click the select button, and then you can draw a rectangle where you want to record. It's behaving a little weirdly because it has two recording programs running at the same time, and the CPU can just barely keep up with them, I think. So I draw that rectangle, and the thing is, here's the width and height. Now first of all, we are using the Microsoft Video 1 codec, so I don't have to worry about this height. If I was using Xvid, I'd have to make this even, and this one. So once you've drawn it, click it, and now it'll set the location where that rectangle was drawn, and it will use that rectangle unless you change it later. It'll use this width and height with this left edge and top edge, in other words, fixed. So then I click OK. Then when I start to record with CamStudio, you see the rectangle where I just drew it. And it is recording in that part, and I'll move the cursor so you'll be able to see on the recorded video what's happening. So that's the one where you draw your rectangle. And here's the CamStudio recording of the rectangle I just drew in that part. So that's the one where you draw the rectangle. Just a few more words on that option though. If you were using Xvid, number one, you'd make this even, but if you're going to put it on YouTube, you want an aspect ratio of 16:9. That's the ratio of the width to the height. So what you would do is you would decide which one you liked, the height or the width. If you like the width, you can calculate the height by dividing the width by 16 and multiplying by 9 to get the correct height. If you like the height and you want the width, to change the width, divide the height by 9, multiply by 16 to get the width that gives the right aspect ratio. And after you do the calculations, remember, make both these numbers even. I find it helpful if I uncheck this and then check it again just to make sure everything got remembered correctly. Then you click OK and then record. And I've already done one recording, so I don't really want to do another one. I should point out one thing on the fixed region settings. This feature, drag corners to pan, if you check that, you can drag the flashing rectangles, but they almost never work. When you drag the corners of the recording area, it tends to smear the video and the video becomes unusable. I recommend you never check that option. And I don't know that I recommend unchecking this. If you uncheck this option, when you start to record, the rectangle will float. You can drag it and click it to fix the rectangle where you want it. I've had trouble with that option. You're welcome to try it. So again, what happens is, if this box unchecked when you click OK. When you start to record, it'll have a floating rectangle that you can drag around with the mouse and then click to start your recording. And I have had fairly bad luck with that option. And you'll also find that if you have a 2-monitor setup, as I'm using right now, you will have a lot of trouble with a lot of the CamStudio options, to the point where it's almost worth saying, when you use CamStudio, reconfigure to a single monitor, do your recording, restart your computer, and then do your recording. And when you're finished recording, reconfigure to a dual monitor system. Okay, the region window option, I'm not sure how well this one works either. The way it's supposed to work is you have an open window and you click it once you start recording. So let's try it. I'll bring an open window over so it overlaps, and I selected the window option. So if I click the edge of this window, that's what should record by CamStudio if the option is working. So let's try it. Let's start the recording. It says click window to be captured, and I'll click the edge here. That's the edge of that window that I just moved. So let's see what happens. It may be confused. All right, I will move it off the edge. I believe that's one of the options. It does not work right if you have a dual monitor system. Sometimes that option works, sometimes it doesn't. So I think that's an option that doesn't work with a dual monitor system. Now the way to stop the CamStudio if it's hung up right now, the way to stop CamStudio if it's hung up is, and I know it's out of the recording area, is you click the caret for the system tray, then you right click the CamStudio emblem, and then you click stop. That stops it from recording. It wants to save, but I'm not going to bother to save it. Let's see what some other options are that we might show. Region all screens will record both monitors, and I am using 2 monitors at the moment. If you are using 2 monitors and you have CamStudio open, you have this option. If you don't have 2 monitors, this option will not appear here, and there's no need to select a screen because there's only one screen. So these 2 options won't be here on when CamStudio is open if you only have 1 monitor, but they are here now. So if I set that one, it should record both monitors together in the configuration that you use when you defined the 2-monitor system. So let's start CamStudio recording. Here's the CamStudio recording of all screens, and as you can see, it definitely has a problem. Another option here is region select screen. Now CamStudio is waiting for you to click on which monitor you want to record. So if I click anywhere on this screen, it should record the main screen if it works. Here's the CamStudio recording after I clicked the main screen. And this time I'll click on the secondary monitor and we'll see what it records. Here's the recording of the secondary monitor, but I did have to try it twice to get it to work. Recover separate CamStudio audio and video files. CamStudio occasionally fails to produce a combined audio-video file and outputs separate temporary audio and video files with an error message. Here's an actual example. This is the name of the temporary audio file. This is the name of the temporary video file. Here are the steps to fix the problem. They work most of the time. Open a file converter program such as Prism File Converter from NCH Software. Drag the video file into the file converter program. Select MP4 output and convert the file to MP4 format. The final step is to open PowerDirector, the video editing program, load the original WAV audio file and the converted MP4 video file into PowerDirector, and then drag the video file onto the video track of track 1 and drag the audio file to the audio track of track 1. The file is now complete and can be output as is, or you can make any editing changes you want now. If you're going to make editing changes, I suggest you first select both parts of the file, the audio and the video, right-click, and link the video and audio. Now proceed and edit, make any editing changes you want, and when you're finished you can produce the file and you will find that it's a playable video file with audio. Thanks for watching my video. Please click my name, Thomas Wallace, to visit my channel page to see more of my videos.